we're gonna review how AAA games are struggling to survive. Spending is flat by Bellular News. I actually really like this guy's content. One of my favorite interests on YouTube, I have a couple interests. I love, one, media in general, so all of YouTube. I love consuming content. I think it's great because you can learn so many different things from so many different people. You can hear so many different opinions. Whoever says the internet is brain rot obviously isn't using correctly, because I can learn more than most people could in multiple years within a couple weeks. Two, I like games. I don't often have time to play them, and I really wish, it makes me so sad, honestly, that I don't. It makes me really upset a lot of days. But I will watch people playing games or watch news about games, and that's kind of my vicarious living. So video games. Three, I like looking about cars. I love cars. I'm big on cars, so I watch shit about cars all the time. And then four is kind of bodybuilding. Whenever it gets in there, it gets in there. So we're gonna indulge in one of my fancies for the last video. A little bit more, maybe slightly positive. There's a lot of negative in the world right now, but I shouldn't even say that. This is relatively negative in and of itself. AAA is struggling to survive. Spending is flat by Beller News.
Okay, let's talk about the $100 elephant in the room, because the internet is wrestling with a rumor that feels rather shocking, that Grand Theft Auto 6 may launch with a $100 RRP price tag, right? That's the box.
You guys hear that? $100 for a video game. Talk about inflation, boys. We're getting to the 3 digits when we're talking about digital fucking markets, bro. We're talking about a video game being $100 at launch.
Box price of the game, and your gut reaction is probably the same as mine. That's bullshit.
See ya, Samantha.
That's too much, and that is fair. But this story,
I mean, I do live near Orlando. I'm only like 5.5 hours away from Orlando.
Story actually goes a bit deeper than just the sticker shock.
Yeah, Jonathan, the bases have that's so cheap. I don't even like talking about it because I feel like it's stealing. But yeah, like the steaks are like a couple bucks compared to like even Walmart's like $8 to $10 steaks, you know?
Because we've actually been here before. Back in 2023, there were unsubstantiated rumors that had people worried about a $150 price point for GTA 6. Now that did obviously not materialize, but this time it's based on an analyst
99 cents for my copy? Are you on Pirate Bay, brother? What's going on?
sharing his TLDR of private discussions that he says are actually happening amongst people in the AAA sector. $150 was obviously absurd, but $100, well, that's not really as absurd, especially coming from Take-Two Interactive. So the anxiety that people have is not a baseless thing, and again, that is Take-Two's fault, but not just what they're known for recently, like say Grand Theft Auto 5 not having narrative DLC because it doesn't pay in comparison to shark cards, the Zynga acquisition, horrible sports game monetization, and all of that stuff. No, it's because Take-Two are the very company who led the charge on the increase from $60 to $70 as the AAA standard. But here's where it gets more complicated. You and I may be adamantly opposed to paying $100, but many people obviously are not, because deluxe edition, season passes, premium bundles, all of those things. We also all know the AAA budgets are kind of ballooning, and it's not just the big evil corpo types that are saying this. This is a pretty glib tweet that came from Larian's publishing director. Obviously, he's poking the thing with a stick, but he did tweet, "You're not supposed to say this out loud." The point is,
yeah, you really shouldn't even bring that up before launch. Like anything about $100 being the price tag for a game, it's just going to make people absolutely despise the idea of what you're doing and rage against you. But look, if we're talking reality, first of all, the monetization system is fucked because basically GTA makes its money from selling shark cards, selling fake property online, which is just a wild concept. But furthermore, because of that disastrous amount of money they're making, truly billions of dollars, they feel like it's necessary to charge $100 for a game. It's just not a good look. I get why they would do it though, because if you think about it, games have been $60 for some time now, and inflation's been one hell of a thing. Games were more expensive back in 2000, and they would be equivalent to what is $110 today, I believe. If that, I saw a graph, which I hope is correct, compared to what games are today, which is like $60, which is now significantly less, right? $100 these days is literally $20 in 1990s. No joke. Check inflation. Yeah. So, which is fucking crazy. That's disgusting. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense that they're increasing the price for games. It's always been $60 since as long as I can remember. When I bought Halo 3, it was $60. Did you see the video about the rivalry development between Nick Walker and Regan Grimes related to the New Year Pro? I think Regan is easily going to beat Nick. We'll talk about that. But yeah, I think Regan unfortunately won't beat Nick. I think he won't beat Nick. But that's just because he hasn't come into condition like Nick has. Nick can get shredded. Regan, I've not seen that. I thought most of the money was from microtransactions. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like most of their money is coming from microtransactions. And so you would think that their strategy, their entrance into the market would be make the game extremely cheap and then profit on the back end with microtransactions, because now you've given people a reason to buy them. They saved money on the front end. They're going to spend money on the back end. And likely you can have them spend more money too by buying a specific upsell on the back end. You get them into the funnel basically. But the strategy is now going to be $100 at cost. I don't understand why. Most people buy 1 to 2 games a year as it is. At $100, the industry would be cannibalizing itself, competing. Yeah, I mean, competing from the same gamers. It's true. Like a gamer wouldn't be able to buy more than a couple games a year, and that is a big problem. But I think it's capitalism, and you have to fight for the market. So it does make sense too. It does make sense as a company, and this is also relating back to what I was just talking about. How we were talking about, this new AI comparable to Black Myth Wukong. Black Myth Wukong had a budget that's like 16th of what modern AAA games have in America to be produced. I mean, modern games in America cost, like, can you guys even conceptualize $300 to $500 million to produce a game? What are they doing with that money? Why do we need several HR types to manage a developer? Like, just develop a fucking game. And here we have Black Myth Wukong coming out the gates with the best selling game ever, and it literally cost them a fraction of what we pay for, to manufacture a game. So it's like a lot of it is just bloat, just company bloat.
Actually, this is kind of what they're all thinking. So let's get into the story. What kicks it off is this. It's Matthew Ball's State of Gaming 2025 report, and it suggests that some players in the industry are quietly hoping for Rockstar to break the $70 ceiling. Of course, not just for themselves, but to trigger an industry-wide price reset, basically pushing $50 up to $60.
We should remind people about Fallout 76 and how much fraud Bethesda pulled with their poison helmets and trash bags. Yeah, they're a dirtbag. I mean, it's honestly a disgusting company now. It used to be super good. I don't know if you guys also were into like the Shattered Space DLC, but holy Christ, man, that you could barely call that a DLC. Like, I don't know what they were thinking, charging a full price. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. $49.99 was the price point for NES and SNES. Interesting. I haven't gone to those in Pensacola, Jonathan. I've only been here for a little over a month, like a month and 2 weeks, so I haven't had a ton of time to saturate the environment.
60 to 70, all the way up the chain. And this is obviously not just analyst speculation. Whenever Larian's publishing director effectively, confirmed it with a cheeky, you're not supposed to say that out loud, he was really just reiterating a point that he also made last August when he talked about rising development costs and inflation as well. But of course, he gets to say that from the position of selling people Baldur's Gate 3. That's a game with such an absurd value proposition that it still has 24-hour peaks of 75k on Steam.
Okay, I bought this game because I really wanted to try it out. Everyone always talks about it. The player numbers look insane. I could not get behind it for the life of me. I literally got stuck within the first 2 hours of the game, and I can't figure my way around it. I don't know if I'm an idiot or if I just don't know what I'm doing, but I could not get behind this game at all. How much snow did we get? It was 10 inches. We got 10 fucking inches of snow. It's bullshit in Florida. What is going on with the world? Okay, all right, compared to libraries, you got me there, but in terms of modern day movies, social outings, festivals, etc., in terms of the value, games are going to give you your best bang for your buck. Yeah, and literally, even at $100, you couldn't watch like a game's typically its lifetime is going to be somewhere around 20 to 50 hours, depending on what game it is. You couldn't watch that many movies in the movie theater for that price, like to keep up that much time.
I mean,
Nah, go camping. Source, I'm broke. Facts, dude.
if you were to pay $100 for Baldur's Gate 3, but you're still playing it a year and a half on, that's certainly more value than most AAAs are giving you. But it's not just him. This point is cropping up everywhere. As an example, Capcom's president just recently at Tokyo Game Show talked about development costs exploding, quote, 100 times higher since the Famicom days. Now, obviously, this was not him saying, games cost $50 in the Famicom. Okay, we need to charge people $5,000 for games. No, he's not saying that because games sell so many more copies now, but there is a point there that he's making, and it's rather funny considering one of the older rumors, because paying $50 for a game in 1985 is the equivalent of $145.70 in today's money, which, funnily enough, is near that original GTA rumor and is not so far away from some digital collector's editions. To take it to Grand Theft Auto, then, it's going to be one of the most expensive games ever made. It will be absurdly huge. Some people will say that that justifies a price hike, that this is basically Rockstar's excuse to nudge everything up by $10 for the whole industry. But Grand Theft Auto is not your typical game. Rockstar is operating in a completely different universe. Their shark card revenue is so substantial that another analyst, Daniel Ahmad, suggests that actually they could lower the price point of GTA 6.
Boom. This is what I said. Boom. You could make more money on the micros by lowering the price up front,
just for the sake of building up the GTA Online player base to sell more shark cards. The point basically is they're in that rare tier along with Call of Duty where they can just spend $700 million in a game.
How long were you living in Thailand for? It was like a year and some change in months.
And be completely justified. We actually covered it in this video a little bit ago. Now, no one seriously thinks that Grand Theft Auto needs to be $100 a pop to be financially viable. But what we all do, I think, trust is Take-Two's desire for more money. Because obviously they want that. And the industry's desire for Take-Two to be the thin end of the wedge, for them to take the hit so everybody else can charge $80 without having a PR shitstorm. And that's a justified worry because it happened before. You know, it really is remarkable how quickly the $70 price point solidified, and when that happened, Take-Two led the charge. Then PlayStation's first-party titles followed suit, and the strategy was pretty damn simple. They used next-gen consoles as their cover for the increase, and even Nintendo eventually joined in. They leveraged as well Tears of the Kingdom's massive hype to push their own prices up. But actually, here's where it gets kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's the thing. If Grand Theft Auto jumps the price up that much for the base game, and look, it's like cars in my mind, so you can sell those higher end game packages, and if people are fucking retards enough to buy them, they buy them, whatever, that's fine. Marketing wins, But if they charge it and they open up at $100, the rest of every developer is going to be like, great, that's the standard. That is like a true pinnacle AAA game. So we can at least charge 80, and that's what's going to happen inevitably. Do you think moving for a period of time to Pattaya, Thailand is a good idea? Yes. I would be moving there right now if I didn't want to cultivate investments here in the United States and solidify my future, which I will be moving there, trust me, mark my words. Yeah, I would be there now. It's literally the best experience of your entire life. And life is, you reduce the cost of living by like 75% living there. Literally, you can live like a king.
Not everybody could even make that work. Take Redfall, right? It completely face-planted at $70. Let's be real, it would have face-planted at just about anything else. But I bring it up because when analysts started to notice quick discounts on $70 games, they questioned Strauss Zelnick. Strauss is, by the way, the CEO of Take-Two. He's quite the fellow, sort of vampire daddy energy. Anyway, his response was rather telling. He said, "We're not seeing pushback." Now, the emphasis on "we're" is on our behalf, right? So it's not like he said, well, we aren't seeing a pushback. but literally he did say we're not seeing a pushback. And I think there's a big point there. The reality is that certain publishers like Take-Two, like Capcom, PlayStation, they can command those prices because of their track record and game quality. I mean,
if you're big enough in any industry, you can ask for more. If somebody right now owned 50% of the market share in fitness supplements and they asked for a ridiculous price, people would pay for it, for whatever the product was. AG1 is a great example of this, a garbage ass product, yet people were paying out the ass for it because it had most of the influencers suggesting it and using it with their affiliates. It sold like wildfire. If you own the interest of the market, you own how much pricing is worth, like how much pricing you can make anything. If someone's interested in buying a house, they're going to overspend for a house. If someone's interested in buying like we just looked at the freaking Cybertruck, right? And I was talking about possibly buying a Cybertruck. If I really want it, I'll buy it, even though I'm overpaying for it. And I know that because if you make a good product and you own, even if you make a semi-good product and you own the majority of the market, people are going to overpay for anything you make. Apple is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful example of that.
Monster Hunter Wilds, that's going to share the same RRP as Redfall, which is a bit ridiculous when you think about them. Actually, this has gotten to the point where Saber Interactive...
But even then, devs are forgetting this is GTA. Giant brand, lots of goodwill in terms of quality. Compared to that games that were at least barely playable or with uninspired gameplay. Yeah. Well, that's what's going to happen, right? Is like, and I think someone said it might have even been you that said, basically there's people only buy like 1 to 2 games a year. And it's going to be that what happens now is that people definitely only buy 1 to 2 games a year. They definitely, maybe only even buy one. And that is from the best publisher who actually makes a legitimate game. And everybody who's asking for, gold for their shit isn't going to get anything. And we're going to get a bunch of Concords on repeat.
Active CEO, when talking about Space Marine 2, said that they actually felt they had to price their game at $70 because they feared that players would see anything lower as a red flag for quality. And his point actually does make sense for consumer psychology.
And that's another thing. Consumer psychology, like this guy's just about to talk about, he's absolutely right. If I sold you a Bugatti for $15,000 instead of the $1.8 billion price tag it has on it, it wouldn't be worth as much. You wouldn't see it as a valuable car. You'd be like, what the fuck is this? Is this a ripoff? Is this from fucking Alibaba? Like, what is this shit? And the fucked up thing with our psychology is that if something has a higher price tag, even if it isn't a better quality, it's still worth more in our minds. It's crazy. It's so crazy. It's Wes Watson's coaching program, right? He charged so much for it that it seems like it's crazy and has some crazy thing inside of it, when in reality, he just does your macros for you.
In a world where an audience expects $70, if you publish your game at $60, people will then assume that that's you admitting that you're actually not able to command what the industry now sees as a full price. Right, so it is basic sales psychology here. Now, yes, in a world where every customer is a fully informed, dispassionate, rational actor, well, I think the entire global economy would look rather different. The reality is, we're humans, we're emotional, we're not always rational, and we are prone to fun psychological biases. So in a world with a $70 standard, if one game is $60, people will begin to think, why is it $60? There must be a reason why it's not the default. That deviation, well, that adds in some ambiguity, and that means you're less likely to make the sale. And the upshots are fascinating. Capcom are going to make more money than ever with the new Monster Hunter, but we are seeing these discounts being piled on faster than ever. But a 20% discount on a $70 game is actually more revenue than a 20% discount on a $60 game, but it still has the psychological benefits of a 20% discount. So it still works, and this serves to defend everybody's margin within the industry, which certainly goes back to Matthew Ball's point about the whole industry wanting a $10 increase to cascade up. But actually, there's something we've missed. We're already well past $70. It's time to enter the big think dimension. So, do you value something objectively, right, based on its input costs plus some margin? Or do you think something is valued based on what someone in the real market is willing to pay for it? I'd say that at the very least for things that we experience like art, it's the latter, right? That's why millions of people buy games above that $69.99 RRP. The $100 price tag that kicked off this whole discussion has already happened. It just has happened indirectly because you see that $10 price rise from $60 to $70? Well, $69.99 of today's dollars is in fact worth $57.75 in 2020's dollars. Yeah, inflation's a bitch. That's why Space Marine 2 had masses of people paying $30 extra to have some cosmetics, and I think most importantly, advanced access. Just about every major game.
I paid it. Look, I'm happy to pay that shit for something that's extremely fucking good. And Space Marine 2 was extremely good. I'll pay extra, dude. I don't care. If I know it's going to be a guaranteed product, I'm paying extra for it. It's better than paying less for something that I don't even know is going to be good. That's just the way I look at it. Like, if it's a game that I want, I'm going to pay for it without any concern in my mind. And I know people can be upset all day about it and cry and say, oh my God, prices are going up. But hey, man, I get it. Market's the market. I want a good product. I'm going to pay for a good product.
Game these days does
I played the shit out of Space Marine 2.
Advanced access. Obviously, it's more money, because with it, publishers have found their workaround. They know that people who buy a game on day one are price insensitive compared to the average customer, because they're the people who still buy games on day one with full knowledge that deep discounts still do happen in the industry. And that means that they are the very people who you can laser target with premium advanced access. And in a way, we know part of the reason why. Budgets are indeed exploding. Spider-Man 1 was said to cost like $100 million. Its sequel, that came out just 5 years later, cost $315 million.
So crazy.
Which, by the way, you can't just put down to inflation. It's also an industry-wide trend that I'll be diving into soon on the channel. But for now, I want you to check this out. This is from Matthew's report, and it's the RRP of Grand Theft Auto games from 1997, and it shows nominal price and inflation-adjusted price. It's kind of funny because Grand Theft Auto 1 would cost $100 in today's money. It almost fits the story too well. But if you look at this graph, you see that it actually does not tell the full story, not even close, because it would be disingenuous to look at that and think, oh, Strauss Zelnick and the lovely people at Take-Two Interactive have protected me against inflation by not hiking their prices even more. That is obviously not the case, because that's not their business model. To just take that chart would be to omit shark cards. And
yeah, it's not like they came out with a new program. It's the same Spider-Man. Exactly. And that's what's crazy about it. I truly believe it's just the bloat of American companies. We need so many different departments to do one fucking simple task. And it's like, if we could just laser focus people and doing what they need to be doing instead of having all these layers of added slop on top of it. If we got rid of CEOs and had a centralized companies run themselves, like, just have good employees, right? Like, have self-managed good employees. I know it's hard to ask for these days, but man, everything would just be so much cheaper to do, make, and to start.
And everything else that goes on. Because the move from 60 to 70 was not enough. It was just part of a whole stack of measures to increase revenue per customer without going so hard that it sparks deep outrage. But here's the thing, this distortion will hurt them. And within Matthew's report is a rather shocking thing about consumer spending. By now, I think most of us agree that a $100 RRP largely wouldn't work because customers would just reject it and wouldn't see it as a good value. And that's because the large upfront purchase is the more psychologically expensive way to get some money. That's why you've got the upcharges and the microtransactions growing over time. Those are just little cuts here and there. So not only is this, for all of the reasons that we know, but there's a deeper hidden sort of reason and risk here. And it's one we're about to face. Imagine Grand Theft Auto 6 ends up costing $80. Now compare that to, say, some skin bundles. It's the cost of a few skins for a Grand Theft Auto. Now for Grand Theft Auto, Daniel Ahmad is right. The RRP tweaks that Take-Two can make will pale in comparison to shark cards over the life of that game. And that brings me to the big risk here. our perception of value. Because when you can buy a game that costs over $500 million to make for the price of a few skins in some other game, what does that say about value? What are we paying for? Are we even paying for content now? And here's the data to ram that home. This is worldwide consumer spending in real terms. That's the killer, in real terms. And what we see is that even with games as money desperate as they seem to be in many cases, the spending is shockingly flat. RRP matters less. But if you look at all of the money that's being spent, well, it's not massively growing, and what you basically realize is the money being spent is going less and less into content, and more into upcharges and microtransactions.
Yep.
It seems that, again, in real terms, everybody is fighting for a roughly similar number of dollars, your dollars, and that pool of dollars doesn't seem to be going up as quickly as
The pool of dollars, like we just made this point, a consumer doesn't buy more than maybe 2 games a year. And so if you can get a consumer to buy the game and then sell them products that are less than the cost of another game, you're going to make money. Because if they can enrich their experience in your game that they already bought, knowing that they won't probably buy many more games and they're thoroughly enjoying it, yeah, they're going to spend the $10 extra compared to the $100 extra on the new game and not have to have a whole other set of microtransactions they have to deal with. So it's a absolute, like you're making the money on post purchases, and it's honestly fucked up, but also it is generated by the people in the end. Like it is generated by the consumers, and I don't understand why so many people consume microtransactions. I can't think of the last time I bought something outside of Helldivers 2, because it's kind of you need it to get new weapons and stuff that's built into the game, but also, to be fair, the price tag of the game was $40. So like it kind of makes sense, right? And that's where I think like justifying a lower price first would actually get more purchases in the back end, but it's regardless still fucked up. Is that Marvel game any fun? The movies all suck, so I wondered. Yeah, it's not anything like the movies. Marvel Rivals is definitely a phenomenal game.
Game budgets are, which means that, well, on balance, more of those dollars are going into what I would call low-value upcharges like skins and not game content, which is a problem if you're here for actual video games. Now to bring it back to Larian, Baldur's Gate 3 is not full of upcharges and bullshit. The $70 games that it competes against, though, often are full of that bullshit. And of course, those are, the big traditional AAA publisher titles that set expectations industry-wide. $70
Man, I didn't get into any of that shit that just showed the cutscene when I was playing.
Works for them, right? Those big AAAs, because they can monetize in so many other ways with your advanced access, all of your different bundles and your currencies and all of that stuff. But if you're fighting those companies to make a AAA quality game, like say Larian would be doing, and you're targeting $70, but you're foregoing all of the other ways that those companies earn money on top of the $70, then you are at a disadvantage for not taking up those tactics, and that's bad. Even beloved games like Space Marine 2 feel the need to do the very expensive premium advanced access. And that's the real point here. The unit economics, the business models, those shape what sorts of games get made, and that matters if you care about games. As an art
Shirataki noodles are safe to eat, right? Yes, they are. I use them often in prep for people.
form. I mean, that's why Grand Theft Auto 5 did not have narrative DLC. And looking around the industry, it's probably why we've seen a string of AAA single-player narrative studios die. It's why back in the day, we would actually get plenty of narrative DLCs for games, but nowadays, that just doesn't really seem to be the thing that happens anymore. What's harder, spending untold millions for the chance to sell a new creative $70 game, or just pumping out more $15 to $25 skins to sell to the people you already know you have in the game you've already made?
It's also a lower price tag. So I think like the point he's missing is that the easiest thing is to sell someone something that's $10 and kind of good, like good enough to justify $10, but not something that's $70 that's could be good, but they don't even know the product. It's much easier to keep someone in your funnel and sell to them. There's actually like statistics to this. It's almost 66% more likely that if someone's in your funnel, whether it be a landing page, an email list, Instagram or whatever, 66% more likely that you'll actually sell to that person a product. So it's general business. It's actual, this is the scale of any business. This is how business is headed in anything. It's Netflix, it's Amazon, it's fucking products anywhere, everywhere, left and right and center. It's just, there is your baseline product, and then there's upsells, and then the upsells generate most of the revenue.
So I guess the question then is, what's going to happen? Well, first, I hate to break it to you, but I can't tell the future. What I will say is I don't think the Grand Theft Auto 6 will cost $100, but I think the Early Access Edition might. And it will probably be, I mean, the most hyped game for at least a lot of
I'm about to rip a bull. I'm back. Welcome back, Webpaint. You made it just in the time for this video to end.
people of this entire decade. So if they do decide to, say, have a 30...
Is it? It might just be me, and I'm delusional, but these graphics don't impress me much. I feel like, especially kind of seeing like the water move
dollar more
and the cars, like the textures, it doesn't look that impressive to me. Like their faces are all really blurry, and when you see the boats driving by,
I mean, the most hyped game for at least a lot of people.
that just doesn't look like graphically amazing to me, but maybe I'm delusional.
Of this entire decade.
Like this, the water splashing, like it's just looks, maybe I'm delusional. I don't know.
So if they do decide to, say, have a $30 more expensive Advanced Access Day 1 edition, yeah, it'll cost $100 for sure. Now, if the game ended up having an $80 RRP, right, a $10 increase, that wouldn't really surprise me. Industry-wide, though, would the AAAs like $100? Would they be happy with $80? Yeah, absolutely. But here's the real point and the disingenuous thing that I see. Yes, industry-wide, the AAAs would love $100, they love $80, they love anything that goes up. And in so many cases, the prime argument will be inflation eroding the dollar, so the price has got to go up. And to a degree, yeah, there's a fair argument there. But it does miss other factors that matter. How much are we paying for their own failures of efficiency, their own cost controls, their own stupid bets on 6-year massive live service titles that cost stupid millions of dollars like Suicide Squad, just as one example. And most importantly of all, how, yes, they may say, well, gamers, back in 2008, if you spent $60 in a game, that's like $87.40 of today's dollars, so you should be paying $90 for a game today. So, do you know what that doesn't really get? I mean, number one, we could talk about...
Damn, dude. I remember these graphics being peak.
For a game today.
The delusion of a young mind, man. I remember this being hyper-realistic. Wow. Y'all remember GTA 4, man? One of the best games ever, dude. I played this shit on repeat.
So, do you know what that...
Good night, Kurt. I appreciate you being here.
Doesn't really get? I mean, number one, we could talk about median wages not keeping up with inflation, but we could also talk about how, you know, back in 2008, when I bought a game, by and large, I bought the whole game, and...
This guy should be asking the real questions like, will GTA 6 have pegging? I bet there's a 85% chance because of Wes Watson it does.
And that was kind of that. Nowadays, that same amount of money, that $69.99, it's getting you a game, but it's also getting you a gateway to a digital storefront that wants even more money. So yes, inflation has happened, but let's not pretend that that's the only thing that's going on within the games that we're being asked to buy. And look, it's fun to shot call, it's fun to analyze. The thing I care about at the end of the day, the most, is that we get good games that have got like real value as like bits of art, bits of experience, the sorts of things that leave players better than they found them, not just kind of infinite Skinner box slop games. And more, I think the unit economics of the business are not supporting that. So caring about games as a medium, I do see this as really quite a depressing risk. That being said, there's a AAA company on our radar.
Yeah, to be honest, to be fair, that's the problem with chasing realism. It's only as good as when it releases. It's true. But when it releases, it's great. I used to say to myself, I'd play games and I'd be just enraptured by the game. I'd be so just everything that I would think about would be the game. The graphics, the fidelity of the game, how it played, how much fun I had, the unique experiences I created, like truly the unique experiences I created, right? Like the feeling of something novel happening because I'm playing this game, like an experience that I'm taking to heart. I just don't feel like I'm getting that from games anymore, or I feel this fear that I might never get that from games anymore. And maybe that's because of my old age, but I just simply don't feel that expression when I pick up a game and play it like I did from Halo 3, like I did from GTA 4, like I did from Modern Warfare 3. That stuff just doesn't happen. Like it did from RuneScape even. Those experiences, those like little moments in time that feel so real and meaningful and like you keep with you. It's just kind of like that doesn't happen with games anymore. And I feel like they're just kind of shadows of their former selves. They don't mean as much. And they're trying to replay over and over and over again the old nostalgia that they caught with people, but it just ends up not happening. Do they use the Unreal Engine in GTA 6? I'm not sure. Going from a $60 game to a $100 game in the same generation of consoles, wild though. It is. But realistically, I think it needs to happen. Like that is the reality when we're looking at the cost of games. I mean, just because of the situation that America's backed itself into, the cost of developing games is so high, you can't do well without having a high price tag, or at least having thousands of microtransactions. But folks, I as well need to go to bed. It's almost 10 o'clock and I have calls in the morning. I got a business to run. I appreciate you being here as always. It means the world. These are the funnest things to see for me personally. I love doing lives. I love talking to you guys. I think it's the coolest shit ever. But if y'all want to, please, by all means, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And stick around for the next live. We're going to do one that's bodybuilding oriented on Friday. That's going to be a repeated thing every week now. And of course, there's going to be more content posted this week as well as next week, as well as every week for the likely future. So deuces, be safe, be kind to one another.